Hi, thanks so much for joining me. I'm going to do a very quick video using the student grade Derwent Academy pencils. It's a 12 set and it's by request. A friend in a colouring group that I belong to has only a 24 or 36 set and she struggles to get shading and different colours with these pencils. So I'm going to use this 12 set, which is all I have of the Derwent Academy, which are quite nice pencils but somewhat hard. She wanted to colour some stones or rocks that are on the front doorstep, which I've just sketched quickly over here to show you. The top is the doorstep, and I want to see how we go and what result I can obtain just using this small set of 12 Derwent Academy pencils. So I hope that you find this helpful. Please enjoy. I've done a very light background of these stones or rocks with the pale green from the set, just to show a little bit of contrast. And then I'm going to start colouring the rocks. What we need to remember is there needs to be a highlight place. So I'm thinking of the light coming from above. Looking at the pencils, there are a number of choices that we can use. So I'm going to take this light ochre, and then it's yellow ochre, and then I'm going to take a reddish brown. I'm taking the black, there's a dark brown, and then I take out the yellow as well as the orange and the red. At the end of the day, I didn't actually use the red, but all of those colors can be used in rocks. So I'm going to start with this yellow ochre and just do a light first layer. Of course, we need a nice sharp pencil to get going. So I was thinking of the light coming from above, and I do a surrounding area, leaving a little white patch in the middle. And this is a very, very light first layer. The small rocks, I didn't worry too much about leaving the highlight area, but just carried on and did with very light pressure. The paper I'm using here is simply copy paper, and it's extremely smooth with very little tooth, so it doesn't enjoy taking all the different layers. And so I did struggle a little bit with getting it to accept all the layers, but I thought it was worthwhile using a cheap paper to see what could be achieved, because sometimes when we start coloring, we are not sure it's something we're going to like, so we either buy a PDF book and print out onto copy paper, or else we buy an Amazon book printed on the Amazon paper, which is also not absolutely fabulous. It's quite thin. So it's nice to see what can be achieved with the less expensive materials and just trying our hand. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just doing a couple of the stones or rocks, stepping stones I think they are. And now I'm going to orange, and I just do a few little patches with the orange as well, just it creates interest when you use different colors. I was thinking afterwards I could have even put some blue in, because if you look at various rocks, you get different rocks. Some have got reddish colors, some have got bluish colors, some even have green. But I stayed with this sort of warmer palette of colors, and I did little bits of orange here and there on different sides, going over the color I'd used. Still a very light pressure. You can see in the beginning my hand is quite near the back of the pencil. This helps me achieve a really light pressure when I'm coloring. As I want to go heavier, my hand, without thinking about it, moves nearer towards the point. Now I decide to use my next color, and I'm going a little bit darker, and I'm going to be using the terracotta color, which is a reddish brown. And to give some dimension to an object, if you look at something, there's usually shadow around the edges of something if the light is shining down on it. So I'm using this darker color more towards the edges of the little stones. And I repeat the process on each of those stones, and I tend to color at this stage with sort of a mixture between little circles and straight up and down lines. When I want to really fill things in, then I start using very tiny circles. So now we're back again to the yellow ochre, and I go over what I've done and bring it out. That sort of blends it, and you can see my hand is near the back of the pencil again, so it's a very light application, just gently blending and pulling that color out further into the stone. I've now taken the red, which I just do a little bit again on the edges and try to bring a bit of depth to the color. I must admit, find it quite hard work with this paper and these pencils. They are not very pigmented. So next I take my favorite, which is yellow. I always find yellow is such a special color. It just brings light to everything, and I gently go over everything from the back to the front of what I've done, still leaving a very small white patch at the top as a highlight. Next I take the dark brown, which is called, I think it's called burnt umber. Yes, it needs a bit of a sharpen first. And I want to, again, bring the dimension to each stone. So I go around the edges very much to it. The dark color sort of takes it away from the eye. And because these pencils are so hard, I decided to use some petroleum jelly. I use this Aquaphor, which I just buy at Amazon, but any petroleum jelly, I usually put a teeny little bit on my hand. I use this for my lips, which are very dry, and if you just put a little dot onto the edge of your pencil, it does help bring the color out a little bit more and help sort of blend the colors in. You can see more colors coming off the pencil having used that little bit of petroleum jelly. I'm just zooming in a bit more so that you can see more clearly what I'm doing. And colouring along with this dark umber. Using little circles. Those little circles, when you colour with little circles, it has an artistic name. It's called scumbling. Scumbling is using those little circles to fill in a space. And the straight lines is called hatching, when you just do lines. So just that bit of dark umber already gives some depth to the stones. It's quite a lot of layers to achieve anything. I think this, when I first started colouring, was the biggest eye-opener to me. I thought people just did one layer and so it was. Now I'm using the orange again, and I've also put some petroleum jelly on that, and just in little sections again, I'm just putting bits of the orange to bring brightness to it. I don't go around the whole stone. I did it sort of on two sides of each stone. Bring a bit of warmth in there. And now I've got the terracotta, and I'm going at the edge again and bringing, so I'm going over the burnt umber and then bringing the terracotta in. Now we're back again with the burnt umber and trying to make it even darker. So each little layer adds something. But it is a time-consuming hobby if you want to get results. I think it probably took me about 2 hours to do these little stones, to complete them all. I completed the picture at the end off camera. Well, not the picture, just these little stones I drew, so I could show you an end result. Now we're back with the yellow, and I'm going over the whole stone. I left a tiny bit of white, but at the very end of the picture I went over the whole stone. So now, if we do the surrounding area with green, I'm using the light green and just lightly coloring that. Then what helps to bring them out as well is creating depth around the edges of the stones. So to do this, I used a darker green again and went around the edge of the outside and brought the dark green out. And there again, there are lots of layers. Went around everything and bring the dark green out, and then go back with the pale green and blend it all together. And sort of go over and over. So now I've sped up the last bit. I've finished all the stepping stones to show you, and you'll see the one on the left. I've done a shading of black around the edge, and can you see how it makes it absolutely lift off the page? So I'll continue to do this. I go backwards and forwards between using the black around the edge, then I bring in the dark green, then I bring in the pale green, and I go blend, blend, blend. In the little places where there's not a lot of light shining between the stones, I make it darker. I bring more black in, and then dark green, and then in the wider spaces I leave some light showing through with the light green, and here and there I use a little bit of the petroleum jelly to blend it all together, and so it goes on and on and on. And I'm sure you're quite tired of listening to my voice at this stage, but that's kind of how I achieve the look of dimension in the stones. So I hope that you found this helpful. I really hope so. If you have, please leave me a comment, and thank you for watching the video. I did a quick end of just doing a very pale sort of grey using the black on the top step. And again, you can see my hand is right at the edge of the pencil, which then gets you a grey from the black pencil. And then as I put the pressure down, so you get the black colour. Well, there we are. I've finished this. You can see how the use of here, where I did the step, it's got different colors of gray and black just by using one black pencil and different amounts of pressure on the pencil point. And also every now and then I do use a little bit of the petroleum jelly, and then to get the sort of look of roundness and texture, well, not texture so much, I mean one could get texture by even adding little bits on the rock with the black pencil, or even the dark brown, the burnt umber. You can do things with different pressures, and look, you can, yeah, I prefer them smooth actually, so let me not mess with it now. But by leaving that white space, I went over the whole lot in the end with the pale yellow, and by creating depth around it, you can create something quite nice with just a few pencils.